Holy shit, it's the 84th edition of the MMA Podcast. April 3rd, 2014. Got a bunch of breakdown. Thank you so much for tuning in. This past Saturday, we had Metamoris 3, Eddie Bravo getting the rematch against Royler Gracie to show the world it was not a fluke, and I think he did just that, dominating Gracie for a good amount of the match. Got a bunch of electric chairs, a vaporizer. Also in MMA news, Chris Weidman, successful double knee surgery. We'll talk about if we think that'll affect him long term. A bunch of fight announcements: Brow Dillashaw, McDonald Woodley, Henderson Cormier, Fitch, Paul Harris, Lawler Ellenberger, and of course a fight tip. Let's do this shit. Cock suckers.
We did it for the love of the game. We did it, mama. I did it for. Mama, the game will never be the same. We did it, mama. I did it for.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast.
That's right, it is the MMA Podcast, the 84th MMA Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You can check us out on Twitter at the MMA Podcast or the MMApodcast.com. We usually do it Wednesday nights, but truthfully, I had some shit going down early Thursday morning. My ear was feeling fucked up, and I said, let's push it to Thursday. So it is Thursday, April 3rd. We appreciate you tuning in. Joined by a couple of my close friends. First and foremost, I'll throw it to a man protecting the mean streets of Baton Rouge. He's going to WrestleMania 30 on Sunday. He will be our man on the street, reporting live from New Orleans at WrestleMania 30. It is the Westland Eagle. What's going on, Alan?
What's up, fellas? It's wonderful to be here. Yeah, I'm just dumbfounded. I met Bret Hart today, so if I'm at a short of words, forgive me.
Hell yeah, he met the legend Bret Hart. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at WestlandEagleAH. I actually made an Instagram yesterday, and you can follow us there. The same shit as everything else. If you want to email us, it's the MMA Podcast at Gmail. The website's themmapodcast.com. The Twitter's the MMA Podcast. You can guess the Instagram is the MMA Podcast. And every Tuesday nights, we actually do the Word on the Street podcast. This past Tuesday, we had Kelvin Gastelum on. If you haven't heard that episode yet, for real, stop this right now and go and listen to it, because it was awesome. Kelvin talked to us about his win against Rick Story. He talked to us about his quote-unquote miracle poo. He popped out 3 minutes before he needed to make weight. Told us he'd absolutely be going back to Mike Dolce. It was pretty interesting. Of course, as always, we had Coach Jamie Huey on, who actually had some surprising comments about Tough Brazil 3. And the man making all that happen, the host of the Word on the Street podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at the Aunt Jimmy Show. It's the indomitable Ramses. What the fuck is up, son?
Not much. Thank you again, as I always thank you for having me on. You changed my life. Being on the MMA Podcast has turned everything around for me. A year ago, I was homeless. Now, I'm paid. I got women, cars, clothes, cocaine. And most importantly, though, I got the word on the street.
Word on the street. Yeah, he actually would spend 35 cents a night, do the podcast from a payphone in front of his cardboard box. Now he's living in the lap of luxury. Enough about us. Even though if you do want to be a part of the show, you can call in. The number is 213-457-3380. You can Skype in at the MMA Podcast or tweet us at our Twitter, like I mentioned before, at the MMA Podcast. We'll read your tweet on air. And the first topic we're going to get to tonight, live here on Ustream on this beautiful Thursday night, late Thursday night. It was snowy as hell today in Denver. I think it was muggy as fuck in Austin, New Orleans, where both of you guys are. Metamoris 3, probably the biggest news over the weekend. We didn't really have a UFC card going on, and this is one of those rare shows where there's not a UFC card to break down from last weekend, not one to break down next weekend. So Metamoris 3, really, that is the main event people had their eyes on, obviously, aside from Bellator and World Series of Fighting. And before we talk about the main event match, of course, a rematch with Eddie Bravo and Royler Gracie. I wanted to talk about Metamoris being the future of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It is a little bit different than most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expos we see, in that Metamoris is 120-minute round, submission only. So where most competitions will let you score points, and if you have the dominant positions over the course of the match, then you can win on points. Metamoris is submission only. The difference there being, the other non-submission only tournaments sort of you see a lot of stalling, because when a guy's on top and he knows he can, he's got the advantage on points, he just rides out the rest of the timer. This is beautiful in Metamoris, because with submission only, it's if no one gets a submission in 20 minutes, it's a draw. No one wants a draw. So you have guys actively fighting and training to get submissions. I think it was Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo talking about it on a recent Rogan podcast. And it's a lot more exciting when you force guys to go after the submission. This is Metamoris' third event, obviously the most popular one yet, as it featured Bravo versus Royler 2. But I'll throw it to you first, Alan, and I guess we'll stick with the order of me, Alan, then Ramses every time, because frankly nobody can follow Ramses. Alan, what do you think about Metamoris, and do you think this submission-only format is really the future of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I mean, to be honest, I can't give 100% opinion, like an exact opinion, because I've only been doing jiu-jitsu for like 4 months now. So, like as a competitor, which I think is what, really matters the most. I don't know. As far as like a spectator, like watching it, I think that it's definitely the way to go. I think that it's the most exciting. It brings the most to the table as far as like the spectacle of the sport. It's like you said, you don't have guys coming in there and, they got a minute left. And, if it's a points match, if that guy's got a minute left and he's on top, you think that he's going to, roll over to guard or go for an arm bar or, try something risky to where he might get reversed and, drop, 3 points on a sweep. No, he's not going to do that. So, as far as the fans go, I think the way that Metamoris is doing it, I mean, I know we have these draws, but it puts on the best performances. I mean, everybody who went out there, Saturday for the most part, they gave it their all. They went from start to finish. Even the big guys, Babalu and I forget the other guy, Dean Lister. They put on a show. Eddie Bravo until the very last second of the match. It was incredible. So, as far as the fans go, I think it definitely is the intelligent way to bring people into the sport. Maybe later on, once you have that base, you have that, that financial support, you can, throw some different things in there, maybe put some points, like variations to the rules. That way, it's a little more effective as far as, like compensating the competitors, not just having draws. But yeah, I think definitely it was a great show. It's going to continue to get better, I hope.
Yeah, man. I got to pretty much agree with what he was saying. It was Metamoris was my first actual like jiu-jitsu focused match that I've ever paid money to see. I've of course competed and won in many tournaments, but this is the first time I've ever ordered a jiu-jitsu match on pay-per-view. It was a $20 pay-per-view. In my mind, it was worth it because I gotta say, because of the storyline behind the Bravo and Royler rematch. I'm sorry, that sold it for me. If I'm ever gonna buy another pay-per-view for Metamoris, I'm gonna need a storyline like that, something of that caliber. I'm gonna need to care about who's actually competing. Otherwise, it does have a pretty high probability rate for just getting boring. If the match ain't cool on both sides, you're in for 20 minutes of nothing. But no, it was all right. They need to do it again. Metamoris, hell yeah. Good to see everybody out there that turned up. I think that it should always be done in a tent to allow for people. You could see them going in and out for the smoke breaks. Everybody was blasted and high. That's the word on the street.
Word on the street, yeah. And speaking of high, Eddie Bravo putting him in the vaporizer, putting Hoyler in all sorts of positions. I think most people watching that, if they knew what they were looking at, they did know that Eddie Bravo was the winner there, even though technically it was a draw. I do want to talk about all this strange stuff going on. Eddie Bravo, he was confronted by Hoist Gracie after the event. Halleck Gracie today saying some disparaging things about him. We'll save that for after we break the actual match down. But what did you think of the match? It was very, very exciting. Alan?
Yeah, from start to finish. I mean, Eddie, in the beginning, he had to, kind of set up. He pulled quarter guard, and was just working his way in there, getting as deep in as he could. And a lot of people, like, to the untrained eye, like, they wouldn't know that Eddie Bravo was pretty much in complete control. But Hoyler was on top. And this about 5 minutes into the match, I think, is whenever Eddie starts, pulling sweeps and, transitioning from each of his positions, from the vaporizer or from the electric chair to the vaporizer. And, pretty much from the 5 minute mark on, it was just Eddie in control. He would go back and reset, start back at quarter guard, and it looked like Hoyler was getting sweeps, and reversing the position, but it wasn't really that. If you listen to Eddie on his podcast, or Joe Rogan on their podcast, he explained, like, he would have to reset the position and go back to the start, so you can go from one point to the next point to the next, and I just thought it was brilliant to see him execute, pretty much everything in his system, that he wanted to. I mean, it was a masterful performance. I mean, if that would have been a pointed jiu-jitsu match, I think Eddie would have been up almost 10 points on Hoyler. So, Hoyler never passed his guard. It was complete dominance, and I thought it was amazing.
Hell yeah, man. The match, the Bravo versus Gracie rematch. It was probably, well, in my opinion, it was the greatest rematch in jiu-jitsu history. It was like it was the same as UFC 148, Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva 2, the rematch, except everybody was high. I loved it, man. Back and forth, Eddie had a lot of pressure, man. He had to prove that he wasn't the Buster Douglas of BJJ. He had to prove that he wasn't a one-hit wonder. A lot of people were calling him the Vanilla Ice of jiu-jitsu, but nobody's laughing anymore, all right? He fried that old man in the wheelchair, or whatever the hell it's called, after putting him on lockdown, and then he vaporized the ashes. A lot of people are saying Hoyler's walking around, he already looks like he aged 20 years overnight. All right, it's not looking good. He was reportedly in a wheelchair. How about that, people? That's sad to see, but I thought Eddie was actually, at some points, I thought he was going to literally rip the old man in half. I thought we were going to see that happen. I thought it was going to be gory, man. I predicted gory finish, but Eddie showed mercy. He showed complete dominance. His 10th planet system worked. He was high. And then the Gracies are in fucking denial now. All right, I don't know how many of them hate him now and releasing statements. I saw a video of the breakdown from the Gracies, and they were trying to make it look like Hoyler won. It was nonsense. I'm telling you right now, Eddie Bravo won handily. Check him out, EddieBravoRadio.com. I love him. He's a master. And one more thing, this Metamoris thing, I think I'm going to try to get a young man I sponsored named Yao the Truth from Queens, New York. I'm going to try to get him to enter this competition. See, I'd give a shit and buy that pay-per-view. Word on the street.
I'd watch Yao and Metamoris too. And it's interesting you bring up everything going on. Apparently after the event, Eddie's puking backstage, and I don't know if Hoist is just fabricating stuff. I don't know if someone's telling him the wrong thing. But Eddie obviously has always been very respectful to the Gracies. You know, the forward in his book was just a giant shout out to the Gracie family, even to Hoist and Hoyler individually. Hoist confronts Eddie as he's puking, which, talk about a bitch move, really. He's also been quoted as saying that he thinks Hoyler dominated him, which shows you how delusional Hoist is. But Hoist starts talking to Eddie about how Eddie had disrespected his family. This is another thing Bravo talked about on the Rogan podcast. Check it out if you haven't heard it yet. And Eddie's like, dude, what are you talking about? And Hoist got all angry and said, don't put your finger in my face, and said he wants to fight him in a Vale Tudo match, blah, blah, blah. Even more surprising, though, Halleck Gracie, too, today. Eddie Bravo on the Rogan podcast, like I mentioned, kind of offhandedly mentioned, like, yeah, I wonder if Halleck's mad at me, blah, 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 because obviously there's a lot of stuff sort of kicked up with the Gracie family and Eddie. I'll just read the Halleck Gracie who Halleck runs Metamoris. I will read the comments he gave recently. Quote, aside from how he competed and showing up as a warrior and competing and presenting his jiu-jitsu in a cool way, this is where I started to lose respect for Eddie as a man, because he completely fabricated that, talking about how Eddie said he thought Halleck was mad at him, which just like, all right, take a step back. Which is worse, Eddie saying, yeah, I wonder if Halleck's mad at me, or Halleck saying, yeah, I've lost respect for Eddie as a man? Really, dude? And it's a super long quote. Obviously, I'm not gonna read the entire thing. But, man, with the Gracie breakdown, where they pretty much just shat on the fact that Eddie Bravo dominated Hoyler, Hoist confronting Bravo, I mean, all of this mixed up, I am really not very sympathetic to the whole Gracie camp. And it's a real shame, because what they've done for mixed martial arts and just martial arts and jiu-jitsu, they've done more than any other family ever, period. But their sort of weird defense, I mean, they obviously hate 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu and the fact that they sort of throw out the gi. And it's sort of like you know, people who have old, outdated beliefs, and you bring them a new system, which we're not trying to shit on your old system, but they don't want to hear it. They reject it. All this stuff. The Gracie family, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Alan, what do you think about all this madness?
Yeah, it really just all confuses me. I don't understand. I mean, everybody who watched that match couldn't have possibly seen anything different than what the rest of us saw. I mean, I understand it's your family members, you know, it's the Gracie, you know, tradition, and, you know, they're all a tight-knit bunch, but, I mean, if you thought for 1 minute that Hoyler dominated that match, then maybe you need to, I don't know, quit jiu-jitsu and go commit, you know, harakiri or something, commit suicide, because you've lost your fucking mind. I mean, Hoyler didn't even do a good job of laying on Eddie. Eddie was able to, you know, basically throw him back and forth at will whenever he wanted to. So, and then for all these, you know, I think what it boils down to is all these guys are old, bitter men, and, you know, they don't have anything else but, you know, anything else to do but to be angry. And, you know, I just hope whenever I get that old, if I ever become that angry, that one of you guys will shoot me and put me out of my misery. Because that's what somebody needs to do for these guys.
Hell yeah, man. I gotta back him up on that one. If you don't think Eddie Bravo won, you should fucking kill yourself. Yeah, these Gracies, man. Hoist, I've heard the word on the street that this guy is a jerk. He thinks he's some sort of prince or something, some sort of royalty. It's getting preposterous. It's getting a little sad. I'll just leave you guys with this one. Just a question: why can't they all be like Henzo? Henzo Gracie, shout out all the way.
What an excellent point, and what a great way to really wrap it up. Renzo Gracie, one of the nicest people in the martial arts world, a top-notch guy. I couldn't say it better than Ramses. Why can't they all be like Renzo Gracie? Let's get to the fucking news. That's right. And what the hell are we leading the news off with today? Chris Weidman, successful knee surgery, double knee surgery just a couple days ago on Tuesday. Seems to be doing well. Posted a picture recently of him with a big shit-eating grin on his face. Ray Longo had brought him a bunch of pastries and gifts, stuff like that. And actually, 18 hours after surgery, the dude's in a little rehab clinic. The dude is already jogging. It's looking like he will be able to come back and be 100% by July 5th, where he takes on Lyoto Machida at UFC 175. But knee surgery can be a tricky thing, you know. Maybe just a decade ago, needing a knee surgery was like a death sentence for an athlete. Things are really coming along, but it's never a certain thing. Alan, what do you think about Weidman getting both of his knees worked on, and do you think this is going to affect him long term?
I really wouldn't consider this like, actual knee surgery. I mean, he basically just got scopes. Basically, it's just clear out a lot of garbage and tidy up. It's kind of like spring cleaning in your joints. And basically the only reason why they even had to push the fight back was because he's got to stay off of them for a little while. And he can't train, so he loses training time. So they just had to push the fight back a couple of weeks. I don't think it's a big deal. As long as he doesn't have any future knee problems or trouble, then I think that Chris is going to be all right. And, we'll see if it affects his performance whenever he steps into the cage on July the 5th.
That's right, man. Yeah, this isn't real. I don't believe it, man. I think it's bullshit. This whole report I rejected outright about Chris Weidman having double knee surgery. I don't believe it. It happened on April Fool's Day for one. He tweets out some fake looking picture where he's giving some weak thumbs up. Yeah, right, man. This thing. It wasn't like this wasn't crazy knee surgery. We all know it. We can see it. He already released a video of him walking around and jogging the next day. All right. It was ridiculous. We all bought it, though. Ha, 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 April Fools. The joke's on us. This guy just got his... Maybe if he did show up to a doctor at any point, he got his knees drained, like Alan's saying. I mean, I have it done all the time, all right? And it's not painful. They don't even have to put you under or anything like that. It takes about, half an hour maybe to get both knees done? It's nothing big, man. It's not even that painful, to tell you the truth. But then again, I'm undefeated in everything ever in life. But I don't believe this story about Chris Weidman's double knee surgery. I think he chose to get his knees scoped here a little bit, just a little fluid drained out, just to buy some time so they could reset the fight, reset the match. And that's exactly what they did. This was all a work. That's the word on the street.
Damn, it was a work, people. Speaking of works, I guess it's not really work, but Chael Sonnen, he's suspicious. And he's suspicious that Vanderlei Silva is going to pull out of his fight on May 31st in Brazil against Sonnen. Also accuses Vanderlei of drinking on the set of Tough Brazil 3. Coach Jamie Huey, like I said at the outset, if you haven't heard the word on the street, pause this right now. I'll wait. Pause it. Stop it. I don't give a shit. Just listen to the word on the street. Jamie Huey had some very interesting comments. But, Chael saying Vanderlei is going to pull out of the fight, saying Vanderlei smelled like booze on the set of Tough Brazil 3. Next week's episode is definitely going to be worth watching. Alan, what do you think of Chael accusing Juan of both of these things, drinking and that he's going to pull out of the fight?
I think they're both true. I don't think he's necessarily accusing Juan. I think he's just pointing out facts. And I think in the future that we will find out that these things are true. And whenever Vanderlei pulls out of the fight and Chael has to get some Patrick Cummings lookalike bum to step in on 2 days' notice in order to save the Fox Sports card. We'll find out. But Vanderlei is scared. Vanderlei wants nothing of Chael. He just wants the street fight. He doesn't want to fight him in the cage. He knows what the deal is. He knows how Chael plays the game and how he's going to get taken down and dominated. And yeah, Vanderlei doesn't train, blah, blah, blah. Vanderlei's going to die. Chael Sonnen, you are God.
God bless you, Alan. Happy birthday to Chael Sonnen, by the way. How you doing, boss? Gotta agree. Once again, Alan, you're on fire tonight, man. Vanderlei Silva. Of course he's been drinking. You would be too if you knew you had to fight Chael Sonnen. You'd be getting fucked up. He's trying to make any excuse he can to get out of this damn fight, whining about his boyfriend, his coach, trainer, Dida, not being able to. I don't know what the hell was even going on with that one. He's trying things already. He didn't even sign the fight contract until he's humiliated and shamed even more than usual. Of course, he's boozing and whatnot. All right, it's disgusting, but at the same time, he's an old man, and old men need their cough syrup. They need Grandpa's old cough medicine, if you know what I'm saying. It's gonna be a shame, just that we even have to witness this fight happen. But it's already too many wheels are in motion right now. He might pull out with something. He might claim. I mean, now that this is coming to light, he might claim he's going into AA. I don't know. I don't have the word on the street because I don't hang around his trash bins and with the mud shack he has. I don't know. I don't know, in Vegas or whatever. I'll tell you what my plans are for his dojo later. Word on the street.
You will hear that shit later on. Yeah, Vanderlei. Honestly, most of the time, Chael saying like, "Oh yeah, he's drinking on set." You take it as a joke. Not everything Chael says is supposed to be taken literally. But watching Tough Brazil 3, he's sort of stumbling around. He's getting lost. He's slurring his words. I think this man is just one drink too deep doing Tough Brazil 3. We have a shitload of fight announcements to break down tonight in what's going to be a short show. But first and foremost, let's get to the 10 solid seconds of sports, where we break down all things not MMA. Florida, Connecticut, Wisconsin, and Kentucky all round out the Final Four. We will crown a national champion on Monday night. The Gators are going to win this shit, people. Opening day in baseball, only 162 games to go. We're getting very close to hockey, basketball playoffs. Wildcard race are heating up.
I can't believe it keeps happening. I got some news, Jake.
Hell yeah, break it. Break the news.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of a problem with the budgeting on the MMA podcast, so we're going to have to make some changes. Your 10 seconds of sports, we got to cut that down to 7 now next time. All right, thanks.
Cut it to 7 seconds of sports. Damn. Next
money.
episode 85, it'll be the 7 solid seconds of sports. And that actually is a much better alliteration than 10 solid seconds of sports. Let's move on. Honestly, all we have to really break down are fight announcements, upcoming fights. This fucking might be the first episode other than 71.5 to go under an hour. We will see. There's just not really much going on, April Fool's Day rolled around. Dana White said he wasn't going to release anything because it'd be a waste of time. Really, the only 2 bits of news we got on UFC tonight last night were fight announcements. Damn. And actually, you know what? First and foremost, I use that phrase far too much. I wanted to address a tweet I just saw on Twitter. Diego Sanchez, at Diego Sanchez UFC. This is what he tweeted out 10 minutes ago. And I want to get your reactions, Alan and Ramses, before we start talking about these announced fights. This is what Diego Sanchez just tweeted out. Quote, "Can't sleep. Up thinking about Ross and how we're going to bang it out." Obviously, our buddy Ross Finkelstein, I don't know if he's going to call into the night show or not. Yeah, he may need to join witness protection now. Alan, quote, "Can't sleep. Up thinking about Ross and how we're going to bang it out." I had no idea Diego Sanchez had a thing going with our buddy Ross Finkelstein. Follow him on Twitter, E before the L. What do you make of this?
I don't think Ross has anything to worry about because we all know that Diego Sanchez is a bum. And we all know that he doesn't bang anything out with anybody because he can't even get it up anymore. That's the word on the street.
Damn, Ramses.
That's true, man. But yeah, like I tried to keep it. Look, I knew he was queer. I knew the Jew was queer the whole time. Word on the street.
Simple enough. That's the word. Let's move on to matchmaking. Tarek Saffiedine is injured. In his place steps the man who recently fought for the welterweight belt, Robbie Lawler. He'll be taking on Jake Ellenberger at UFC 173. Alan, you and I are both going to be in the MGM Grand Garden Arena for the fight. Who you got in this one?
Who do I got?
Who you got?
Who I got? I definitely got Robbie Lawler. After watching that 5-round performance, his cardio seems to be on point now. His heart, it's in the right place, and he's got tons of it. I don't know, man. I think in a Jake Ellenberger towards the end of his fights, man, if his fights go too long, he gasses out. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because, he, throws too many haymakers early in the fight, but I think Robbie Lawler is hit that point in his career where he's just like in the right place. And I think Robbie Lawler pulls it out.
Pulls that shit out.
I just can't do this I can't do it anymore with Jake Ellenberger, man. He's just I still don't know the difference between him and Jake Shields. I'm just saying, one of them needs to hang it up. Yeah.
They call me fancy boy. You're a love man. Really walking.
Yep, he's a dandy. He's a real fancy boy.
That's right, man. A lot of that going on. We were just talking about Ross. But Jake Ellenberger's got to go, in my opinion. It's time for Robbie Lawler to put him out. People care about Robbie. Nobody's going to even notice that Jake Ellenberger has been cut until maybe two years from now, when someone confuses him with Jake Shields.
Hell yeah. Let's move on to the World Series of Fighting 11. World Series of Fighting 9, we just saw Husmir Palhares defeat Steve Carl for the welterweight belt. He's now the welterweight champ, and he'll be taking on John Fitch in a few months, July 11th, at World Series of Fighting 11. Fitch, obviously, for the longest time, was the perennial number 2 at welterweight behind George St. Pierre. Excellent wrestling. Struggled a little bit, got finished by Josh Bergman, but now he's rising back up the ranks. He's getting a title shot against Husmir Palhares, who can't seem to get away from late cranks on people's legs once he gets that leg lock. Who you got in this one? Are you still upset with Palhares for the Pierce fight?
Yeah, I just can't let that go, man. Husmir Palhares, he needs to go back to fucking competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Because as far as like MMA is concerned, he can't fucking strike. He gets knocked out in any fight that doesn't go straight to the ground. So he's a bum. He needs to, go back to his own world where, you can crank on people's fucking limbs after, they tap and not get in trouble in Brazil because, everybody's fucking dirty, plays with mud, and, does low life shit like that. So Palhares, you can get the fuck out of here. I hope John Fitch lays on him and smothers him and breaks him. I think that's possibly could happen. John Fitch has, definitely got the wrestling. Only thing that worries me is, what John Fitch is going to do. He's going to want to take it to the ground, and we know what happens when Palhares goes to the ground. So, I don't know, but I hope somebody fucking murders Palhares. What he did to Mike Pierce was a travesty. Mike was on his way to the top, on his way to a welterweight title shot, number 1 contenders match, and, word is somebody slip Palhares a little bit of extra money, an extra envelope full of cash to put the hit out on Mike Pierce. That way, the UFC's golden boy, Rory McDonald, could keep rising up the ranks.
Yeah, we will actually be breaking down Rory versus Tyron Woodley a little later, but Ramses?
Yeah, who's smart? Paul Harris. I still believe that he is a piece of shit fighter. Um, the dude just he doesn't belong on this professional level. But then again, him going up against John Fitch, I'm not a big John Fitch fan either, man. When he came into the World Series of Fighting, what's the first thing he did? He dove headfirst into a sleeper hold like it was the WWE. So I don't trust John Fitch. They're probably gonna work this fight because give me a break, man. John Fitch ain't gonna take a risk for a World Series of Fighting paycheck, getting his leg ripped off. Paul Harris is just lucky he has a job. It really doesn't matter to me who wins this one. I'm not gonna even pretend. That's it. That's it.
Fucking beautiful. Not too much love being spread around for Paul Harris on the MMA podcast. One last fight before we get to the fights we're pumped for April 2014. Conor McGregor versus Cole Miller. It's been rumored, tossed around for a while now, but apparently now that is officially being at least tentatively scheduled if Conor McGregor can pass his physicals for the Dublin, Ireland headliner. That'll be July 19th. Interesting matchup. Conor, obviously a phenom. He's got a bunch of people all aboard the Conor McGregor hype train, taking on Cole Miller, who we used to know a weight class above at 155. He's now moved down. He's looking pretty dangerous, locking up some good subs. This is going to be a classic, striking guy versus submission guy. But who you got in this one? Both of them are going to be talking a tremendous amount of shit. It's going to be a contentious weigh-in. I really hope the fight happens. I have Conor, the Irish striker. I think he gets a step closer to that featherweight belt. Alan, Hamsies, yeah.
Well, how could I pick against Conor McGregor? He's one of me people, you see. So, yeah, I got to go with Conor McGregor. I don't see any way for Cole Miller to win this fight unless, somebody runs in there Nancy Kerrigan style and hits Conor in that knee again and cripples him before the fight. And, the only way that Cole Miller wins that fight is if he fights a one-legged Irishman.
Yep. Yeah, man. Definitely Conor McGregor is going to win. I believe that they're just going to straight up work this fight. Just the Conor McGregor, he brings in the green, and I'm not talking about just the Irish. That translates to a lot of money. He's just coming off this knee surgery. The UFC ain't going to feed him a killer or a hitter or anything like that. They're going to give him a Cole Miller, and they're going to tell Cole Miller, listen, man, this is what's going to happen here, all right? Maybe not the UFC itself, but somebody's going to step in and work the fight for this Conor kid, man. That's what the fans want, right? He's some sort of superstar now. I don't even know why. Tell you the truth. Yeah, he's got a couple of good one-liners here and there. The story I heard about him in Vegas was pretty funny. But other than that, yeah, they're just going to keep setting this guy up. And just hopefully someday you'll see a Conor McGregor pay-per-view is the mindset here.
Word on the street.
I still don't care.
Hell yeah. A few more fights to break down before we give you a fight tip and send this shit out. But of course, it is the first show of April 2014, so it's time to break down the fights we are pumped for. Man, there are a lot of good fights. Obviously, UFC 172 is going to be our lone pay-per-view for April, and I'm going with the co-main event on UFC 172. A fight that was really surprising when we all heard it was made. Phil Davis taking on Anthony Rumble Johnson, coming over from the World Series of Fighting, was very successful over there. A lot of first-round KOs and TKOs going up against Phil Davis. A very, very stout wrestler from Penn State. He's worked his way up. He doesn't have many losses on his record. He's young. He's got a lot in front of him with his MMA career. But first, he's got to get through Anthony Johnson. We've heard Gustafson's going to get the shot at the winner of Jones Glover. After that, Hendo DC is going to be a winner of Hendo, and DC is going to get a shot. We will talk about that match a little later. But after you get through those five guys, Jones, Glover, Gustafson, Cormier, Hendo, The next in line, I mean, you've really got to say it's the winner of Phil Davis and Anthony Johnson in this now logjam we have forming at 205. Hamzis.
Yeah, the fight that I'm pumped for in April, it's going down. Michael Bisping is going to take on Tim Kennedy. Yeah, this is going to be the Brits versus the Americans all over again. And I got to say, man, I'm not taking USA's side on this one. I'm going with Bisping on it. Just something about Tim Kennedy, man. I'm not on board yet. He trains up here in Austin, so, you know, I should be a fan of this guy, but I'm not. Why? Something going on here, right? Something. I'm not questioning his military record or anything, people. I'm just saying, for some reason, I just don't get too excited about him. I think he's a cage hugger for the most part. He's a staller and a point fighter. If I have to, I think I just nailed it down why I don't like him. So it's nothing personal, Tim. I just hope that Bisping, you know, just ends your life here this month in April. I'm pumped.
Who's your fight of 2014 you're pumped for? You still with us, Alan?
Could you expect anything else from me? Chael Sonnen and Vanderlei Silva. There's no other fight to even look forward to. I mean, I'm a big fan of, you know, all the Asian fighters that I love, but how could you not be ready to watch Chael Sonnen dominate Vanderlei Silva, that fucking piece of shit? I mean, it's gonna be beautiful destruction. I get chill bumps talking about it, and I can't wait.
That's going to be May 31st, but I do like how pumped up you are. You're getting it in a month ahead. Chael Sonnen and Vanderlei Silva in a fight that I think a lot of MMA fans look at and think, you know, I wonder why Vanderlei Silva keeps backing out of the fight, keeps making up excuses. Oh, I'm injured. Oh, I want my boyfriend died to corner me. Oh, this, oh, that. Even Vanderlei Silva knows when it comes to this fight, he matches up horribly against Chael Sonnen. He's not going to be able to withstand the takedown, and Chael is just going to beat him up pillar to post. Yeah, that's what I see going down, Ramses. I like the match Bisping versus Kennedy. That's going to be a good middleweight war. And of course, before we break down these last few fights, I do want to remind anybody who wants to call in. The number is 213-457-3380, or you can Skype us at the MMA Podcast. Tweet us at the MMA Podcast. It's literally an open forum. I mean, this is going to be a really short show. Usually we do, like an hour 30, an hour 45. We're at like 45 minutes, and we're getting close to the end of our run sheet here. So, I mean, open forum. If you want to talk about your neighbor's dog, how it barks all fucking day, it keeps you up, all that shit, whatever you want, just call into the damn show. We will move on. Renan Barão taking on T.J. Dillashaw as the UFC 173 headliner. Obviously, Weidman got injured. His fight against Lyoto Machida moved to July at UFC 175. Now we got a new UFC 173 main event, a bantamweight championship fight. Alan, what do you think about this matchup? We're gonna be there rooting on our guys here. I don't know who I'm gonna root for. Actually, I like both dudes, but who you got in this one, Alan?
Man, it's really hard to pick against Barão. He's been so dominant, and if I was going to go through the division and pick one guy that I thought that really matched up well with him, it's Dillashaw. Dillashaw is, you know, so well-rounded and, you know, he's so fast. He's good on the feet. You know, he comes at crazy angles. He pretty much does all the same things that Barão does. I think that these two guys like nullify their takedowns, and I think that it ends up just, you know, being a crazy stand-up war, and, you know, whoever, you know, makes that first mistake, you know, is going to be the guy who loses. I really can't pick. I can't pick a guy in this fight. It's just, you know, it's really close to me. You know, you might give the edge to Barão just because he's the favorite, and the man hasn't lost in like 26 fights. So, you know, I give the edge to Barão. I'll be pulling for TJ though, just for the upset. Yeah, I'm going with Renan Barão on this one, I guess. I mean, I don't really care about this one. Him fighting. I don't know the difference between T.J. Dillashaw and Colton Smith. Actually, I don't know.
Hannah Barrow, I just figured it out now though. While you guys were talking, he looks like that demon that was on the wing in that Twilight Zone episode, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, with Bill Shatner. Look up a picture. That demon thing. It looks like Hannah Barrow. He's a weird looking guy. I don't have much else to say about him except for that. The dude just looks weird. As far as the fight, I guess he'll win the fight, man. But this is creepy, and that's it. That's all I have to just stress here.
Hell yeah, we got another couple fights to break down. We just talked about the UFC 173 headliner. We're going to talk about the co-main at 174 and one of the main card fights, UFC 175. But we actually have a caller. Caller, how do you wish to identify yourself? How you doing?
Tick, tock, tick, tock, 2:06 a.m., 4/4/2014. And just, you know, you see May 6th, it's coming close. And when it comes, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you bad. And you see, I'm going to hurt you on your own show in front of everybody who knows you and adores you and loves you. You see, you're going into this as the good guy. Everyone loves Ramses. They think he's hilarious. And I'm going to put an end to it. I'm going to end the word on the street. I'm going to end the Aunt Jimmy show. I'm going to end Ramses. And when I do, the Jew is coming for you, Jake. Kaboom.
Damn.
I don't care about any damn Jew coming after me, but Ramses,
guy.
that promo was more aimed toward you. What do you got to say?
Yeah, this guy, this Jew Ross, man, he's coming out of nowhere. He's been, you can hear it in his voice already. You heard it yourselves, people. He sounded drunker than Vanderlei. It's all coming apart for him. He's sitting there at night, just swilling the rot gut, planning his revenge, so-called revenge. I'm sorry, I made this guy. I'll break this guy. And didn't we already reveal earlier on the show that he was a fancy boy? I believe we did.
Damn. Powerful words from Ramses. I want to update our poll results. Currently, the Gracies. Actually, this is a surprising result. I put out a poll. Which camp do you side with? Bravo camp, Gracie camp. It seems like there's a definite rift forming, even more than there was before Metamoris 3, which is really sad, because I've heard Eddie Bravo say nothing but good things, and all it is are the Gracies kind of just tarnishing their own names. It's super ironic, but damn, what the hell are you going to do? Let's move on. Rory McDonald and Tyron Woodley, they're going to be fighting each other at UFC 174. I think this is likely going to be a co-main event because Demetrius Johnson and Bagatinov are headlining this one, right? I believe so. But yeah, Rory versus Tyron in what I feel like a lot of people are saying are the top two welterweight contenders currently at 170. So aside from the obvious question of who you got, I do want to ask you, should the winner get a title shot against new UFC welterweight champion Johnny Hendricks? Alan?
Should the winner? I don't think there's any winner in this fight except for me eating my chicken dinner. I think they knock each other out. I think everybody should just go ahead and give Hung Yu Lim the next welterweight title shot.
Yum yum Kim.
Hell yeah, I ordered some Hung Yu Lim last night. That shit was delicious. Ramses?
Yeah, it's gonna be Rory McDonald, man. He's gonna take it home. He revealed, everybody saw the picture where he bladed himself, he stabbed himself, made a blood sacrifice to some sort of satanic force to win his last fight. So that's what he's into. He's into black magic, and everybody knows black magic is all voodoo. It's called voodoo, and everyone knows. I mean, I'm not being racist here. Black people are terrified of voodoo. So Tyrone, sorry, he doesn't stand a chance. It's all over for him. Rory McDonald all the way and getting another title shot. Of course they're gonna do it. That's in the damn domination plan from the press when they had the little meeting. The UFC had their annual meeting. They were talking world fucking domination. They revealed a little part of the agenda. Part of it's trying to put Rory over, and just watch out for that, people.
Word on the street. Final topic before we give you people probably the best fight tip yet and close this shit out early. But Dan Henderson and Daniel Cormier, or Daniel Henderson versus Daniel Cormier, as my buddy Jay said recently, going down at UFC 175, July 5th. Another fight. Hopefully Alan and I are both in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Event Center. Apparently the winner is going to get a shot after Gustafsson. I do agree with this. If Henderson can beat Cormier, he deserves a title shot. And he had one earlier at UFC 151, the infamous canceled card. That never happened. I'd like to see him get a title shot again. If he beats DC, I think he deserves it. Obviously, Cormier, if he beats Henderson, I think he's next in line after Gustafsson anyway, so that would only make sense. Do you like the decision for the UFC to match these guys up and give the winner a title shot after Alexander Gustafsson? And of course, who you got? I'm going with DC, even though I love my boy Hendo. And of course, with that H-bomb, he could end any fight. But Cormier is... I'm trying to think who said it on... it may have been you, Alan, on the Word on the Street, saying Cormier is like a younger version of Hendo as far as being an Olympic wrestler with powerful hands. Alan, Cormier, Hendo, you might be there. Do you like the UFC's decision to make this fight and make it a title eliminator? And who you got?
Yeah, I definitely don't have a problem with it being a title eliminator. I mean, yeah, Dan Henderson had 3 losses before his last win, but, they were split decisions, or close fights, except for the knockout, which, we all know was to TRT plus PCP Vitor Belfort. So, that fight didn't count. It's now been wiped from the existence with the dissolution of, TRT being disallowed from the UFC. I do not like this matchup. I think that Dan Henderson needs to go down to 185 pounds. I mean, he doesn't even cut any weight, and he comes in at like 203. I just think that's Dan being lazy. He needs to cut, the last like 10 pounds so he can make 185 and fight guys that are closer in stature to his size. And obviously, I've got to pick Daniel Cormier. I want Dan Henderson to win this fight, but there's no way that I see Daniel Cormier losing unless Hendo gets lucky and drops a H-bomb, So I got to go with Cormier. He's my hometown, or my home state, guy. He's from Louisiana, born and raised, and I got to go with him.
Dan versus Dan. I got to say, man, this fight doesn't interest me at all. Like I said on the Twitters, follow me, the Aunt Jimmy Show on Twitter. Like I said there, this fight looks like a total cage hugger to me. That's all I see for this fight. Whenever I try to envision this fight and how it might play out, I just see 2 men hugging each other against a cage, huffing and puffing like they're doing something. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to have any of it. Dan barely escaped with his life in Brazil. Henderson, that is. What they're both called Dan. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This fight should not be happening based on those grounds alone. But in the same breath, I am kind of glad that it did come together, because if Cormier hadn't accepted the fight with Dan Henderson, I have it on good authority that they were going to try to make Dan Henderson fight Chael Sonnen after this whole Vanderlei nonsense and whatever. I don't ever want to see that fight happen, of course. So I guess DC, boring fighter to me. I haven't seen anything come out of him. Dan Henderson, he probably should have retired already. I mean, they tried to kill him back then, back there in Brazil. He got lucky. I'm sorry. He straight up got lucky. But I'll take his back on this fight. I mean, DC, man, you got to show me something, man. But he never has, not in the UFC. So I'm done with DC.
Ramses is done with DC. We will move on to our final segment. Look, 10, 20 years ago, an American traveled to Brazil to get the finest cocaine the world had to offer. He went deep into the favelas, had to fight off gangsters left and right. He came back to America with a deep, deep knowledge of fighting, how to give people tips on how to fight. His series on fighting on our YouTube channel, yesterday it reached 1.7 billion views. Ramses, it's time for the 7th edition of Ramses Fight Tips. Give it to the people.
What's up, people? Welcome to the fight tips for here, straight from me, straight from the streets, the word on the street, people. Your fight tip today is going to be how to storm a dojo. I'm talking about a rival dojo. This whole Bravo versus Gracie thing, this thing is going down between the schools now. I don't know if you guys are paying attention. This is quickly becoming a jiu-jitsu civil war. All right, a lot of dojo storming is going to go down. And let me tell you, people, how to go through with it successfully, how to storm someone's rival dojo. Every time here in Austin, Texas, where I train now, every time I hear about a rival gym opening up here in Austin, first thing I do is put on my boots and go to the store and load up on lighter fluid. All right, then you show up to the dojo. You want to make sure it's when you know all their best people are in class, just doing their thing, trying to fake like they're flying through the air, learning karate. Fuck that. You show up when they're all there, all right? Because this is the only way it's going to work, and they don't come back at you. You show up to the dojo, just casually walk through the door, take a wooden plank, and just bar the door up, right? And then what you do is there's usually a front office area, so you'll be in there, the dojo. You'll just immediately start trashing the place, all right? Ripping paintings off the wall. If you got to take a piss, now's the time to do it before the rest of this shit goes down. If there's a vending machine, you'll just unplug it, and then you'll just spray paint the walls and over all their pictures and whatever. You'll spray paint all that shit. Huff that paint. Usually they have some twerpy kid working at the front desk of these places, answering the phones or pretending to be important, getting the food and coffee. This twerpy little kid is there because he's not big enough to train with the adults. So what you do is he'll be the first person that you take out. You just grab him. It'll be nothing. You grab him and power slam him through the fucking front desk. All right, crash. Glass will shatter everywhere. You'll gather the glass into a bag that you brought with you. And then you'll continue on to the main part of the dojo, the floor. Everybody's at the gym area. Everybody's going to be drilling. They're going to be like, did you guys hear just someone get power slammed? And they're probably like, oh, it's probably that stupid kid we got working here. But you'll show up. And they'll know it's on like Donkey Kong, but before anybody gets a chance to react, the problem with these people training at the dojo, they're barefoot. Barefoot. What you do is you take the glass that you just collected into the bag and you toss it everywhere. Throw it at their feet, whatever. All right? Nobody will be able to move. And then what you do is you identify their best student, the teacher, the leader. You'll be able to do this because the system here, it'll be the person probably who has the black belt. You'll locate this person with the black belt, and he's the one you gotta just outright kill in front of everyone else, setting example. Keep in mind, they're slipping, they're tripping, they're trying to crawl over broken glass. All right, nobody's gonna touch you. You go right up to the black belt. You front kick them. You give them the Michael Jackson front kick. You give them the Hulk Hogan big boot. It doesn't matter, man. You figure out. You choose your finish on that one. All right. Once he's laying there dead, you strangled this guy with his own black belt right in front of his students, man. Just the psychological impact. And by this time, they're crawling around. They're all bloodied up. What you do right now is that's when you cut your promo. You tell these people, I'm better than you. Your gym is no good. Everything at your gym is trash. This and that. You cut a promo there. Tell them why they deserve to die. As you take out the lighter fluid you've filled up a bunch of water balloons with, start throwing it everywhere around the gym. And just as people are starting to make their way out of the glass, you basically light the gym on fire, and then you exit out the back door and you bar that door, but as you're leaving, you got to give a one-liner to them or something. You got to be like, man, we're really cooking now, or it's hot and it's getting hot in here, or whatever. You just kick through the back door. You bar that one with a wooden plank. And then, of course, you have a nervous cab driver waiting for you in the back alley behind the dojo. If he's not nervous, it means he's double-crossing you. And there it is, man. You hop in the cab, you go back home, you wait until you hear about a new gym opening in the dojo. Just rinse and repeat. Yeah, you got to kill everybody. But these are, like I said, man, there's a civil war coming. Everybody's got to be ready now. That's how you storm a dojo. And that is your fight tip of the week. Word on the street.
Oh my god, that one is my favorite fight tip yet. Honestly, my favorite part of probably doing the MMA podcast, just muting up and laughing my dick off while you do this. You're just supposed to unplug the vending machine. That's it. It's just like a minor disconvenience. You walk over and take the plug out just so the next person who tries to put in $1, it's like, but that's the catch. They're all going to be dead. Devious minds. God damn it, Ramses. No one in the game does it better than you. And that's a reason why so many people tune in. We appreciate you for tuning in, listening to us on iTunes, YouTube, wherever you listen to the show, Ustream. We are on Twitter at the MMA Podcast, themmapodcast.com. We do the roundtable every 2 or 3 weeks on Tuesday afternoon. Of course, the word on the street on Tuesday nights. Also, check out our boys over at MMA Mental. Alan, one last time, where do we find you?
You don't find me, I find you. The eagle will soar. Beware. Westland Eagle AH on Twitter and Instagram.
That's right. When the eyes of an eagle are upon you, whatever you're going to do, he's going to see. Because when you're in Louisiana, look behind you. That's where the eagle's going to be. Ramses, we can follow you on Twitter at The Aunt Jimmy Show. You're dropping fight tips left and right. The word on the street, the biggest underground podcast in the world. Give us one last bit of goodness for the people. Give them one last morsel.
Come to Christ. Thank you, Jake, for having me once again on the MMA podcast. It's been nothing but success the past, like I said, last year. I had nothing, all right? I had less than nothing. I had no money in my bank account. I had no food, all right? And now I'm pissing money away on the blackjack table every night. I'm so rich. I got a PlayStation 5. Word on the street.
The word on the fucking street. Like always, people, Facebook.com/The MMA Podcast, Twitter.com/The MMA Podcast, TheMMAPodcast.com. Click the links at the top. iTunes, YouTube, subscribe, whichever one is more convenient. Listen to the word on the street on YouTube by searching word on the street. It's very easy, people, and we appreciate you listening. If you're listening, you already know what the fuck is up. We love each and every one of you. We'll see you next week. Until then, big kisses. We gone.
Life ain't worth living if you ain't got vision. Come on. We did it, mama. We did it. We did it for the love of the game. We did it, mama. We did it. I did it.